Hey everybody, welcome to Keto Upgrade. I'm Alicia and I'm a sous chef with a sweet tooth. And today we're going to be doing peanut butter chocolate cheesecake. I found a recipe online that was an individual cheesecake recipe that was normal and I made it keto. So let's get started. Okay, for this chocolate peanut butter cheesecake, you start by preheating your oven to 350 for the crust of our cheesecake. Now, of course, we can't have graham crackers on keto, so I had to come up with an alternative, and that was almond flour. So to make this kind of chocolatey, I added a tablespoon of cocoa powder and a tablespoon of peanut butter powder and 2 teaspoons of granulated sugar. So just add that into your almond flour. Give it a quick stir. Then you're going to melt your butter, 2 tablespoons of butter, in the microwave for just 20-30 seconds. Then you're going to mix that into your almond. You want a nice pasty consistency. And sometimes it's just easier to get in there with your hands. There you go, so it's sticking together nicely. That's what you want for your crust. Okay, so then you line your cupcake tin with 12 liners. You scoop about a tablespoon of crust into each muffin tin. Should have exactly enough for your 12 cheesecakes. Now again, it's just easy to go in with your finger on this one. I've tried using different things and they all stuck to the crust and pulled it up. So just tamp it down with your finger a little bit. Now I did try, I heard on different websites to put cinnamon in it to make it taste more like graham cracker. But I did try it with this recipe and it just didn't go with the chocolate and peanut butter. So I left it out of the final recipe and it did taste a lot better. Okay, once you got that done, you're popping it in the oven for 5 minutes. And while that's going, we are going to get started on the filling. So you need 8 ounces of cream cheese. And you're going to beat that until it's nice and fluffy. Once it's whipped up a little bit, you can add your sugar. This is 1/3 cup of granulated monk fruit sweetener. And I upped this from the original recipe because we are adding some sour cream, which is just something I always put in my cheesecake. And we're using natural peanut butter, which doesn't have any sugar added. So I tried the original quantities and it just wasn't sweet enough. So I went from 1/4 cup to 1/3 of a cup. You want to scrape down the bowl a couple of times while you're mixing all your sugar in, so you get everything on the sides. Then you can add your 1 egg. And try to have everything at room temperature when you do this. It just makes it much easier for everything to get combined well. And we're going to do 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Again, scraping down all this stuff incorporated. A nice smooth mixture. Then you can add in 1/4 cup of natural peanut butter, no sugar added, and 1/2 cup of sour cream. Scrape it down one more time. We're almost set. Now make sure you keep an eye on your crust in the oven. 5 minutes, you don't want to go any longer than that because it will start to burn. Because it's just almond flour, it's not like the graham cracker. Okay, all set. So once your crusts are done and cooled for about 10 minutes, we will get to filling our cheesecakes. Okay, our crusts have been out of the oven cooling for about 10 minutes. As soon as I pulled them out, I upped the oven temperature to 400 degrees for our filling. So we are going to take our 1/4 cup measuring cup. You don't need a 1/4 cup per one, but it's easier to scoop and kind of keep your portions right. You fill it like that. And you pop it in there. You can always distribute the last little bit at the end too, so don't overfill. Makes it easier at the end. If you have a little bit extra, you can just top off some of them. So this original recipe that I found made 18 of these cheesecakes. So to make it a little bit easier on me, less calories, less carbs, I actually took the recipe, I halved it, but I still made 12. So if you half the recipe of the original recipe, you would normally only get 9, but that makes them very big and way too many carbs and calories for my liking. So I stretched it out to make 12 cheesecakes, and they're the perfect little after dinner dessert. You know, they're like 200 calories each, and they're only 3.5 net carbs per cheesecake. So not too bad for a little after dinner dessert. They're only like a 4 bite this way. Sure you scrape down your bowl and everything. You want to get all of your cheesecake batter. Not a single drop left behind. Okay, so once you got all your cupcake molds filled, you want to give it a little tap on the counter. To make sure you have no air pockets or anything, and it kind of smooths everything out. Makes it all nice and even. Then you're going to pop this into a 400-degree oven for 14 minutes total. And what I do, just because ovens are sometimes they cook unevenly, I set it for 7 and then I turn the pan and set it for another 7. So popping these in. Okay, so they've been in for 14 minutes. You want them just set. You do not want them to overcook at all, otherwise they will be dry. And you just want to let these cool for about 10 minutes, and we'll be back to add the topping. Okay, so our cheesecakes have been cooling for about 10 minutes. At this point, I like to pop them in the fridge so that they get a little bit chilled on them so that our topping will solidify on there when we go to put it on. So for our topping, we got Lily's semi-sweet chocolate chips, a 1/4 cup. You got 1.5 tablespoons of the natural peanut butter and 2 teaspoons of coconut oil. Now, I tried this as this is, like this recipe, that's how it was in the original, but I like sweeter stuff. So I took my stevia drops and added 10 drops. And that was the perfect sweetness for me. So this is all up to you. You guys can do whatever you want, however much you want in there. So we're gonna pop this in the microwave at 50% power for 30-second intervals until it's all nice and creamy and smooth. Okay, 30 seconds was exactly the right amount of time. You just want to give it a stir. You don't want to overheat it. So the residual heat, if you have any chunks in there, will melt once you stir it a little bit. And I'm using a teaspoon measuring spoon right now to stir it with, because that's actually the exact amount that you need to put on each one. It works out perfectly. So once that's all stirred up, you grab your cheesecakes out and you top them. Now you can also leave this step out, but I figured out the macros and it's like 0.2 grams of net carbs extra for this little bit of topping on it, and it is really good. So I don't like to skip it. Okay, so you just take your tablespoon measure, you pour it on, you spread it out a little bit. Basically gonna look like a big Reese's cup when you're all said and done. It looks like we're gonna have the exact right amount. And this will be easier the more chilled your cheesecakes are. Because when you put down the chocolate, it'll kind of thicken up real quick and you can push it out to the sides. And it'll get all the way over there and stay there. So these are a little bit warm still. So they're spreading, the chocolate's spreading out a little bit more. But if they're nice and chilled, it'll be super easy to get it all the way to the edge. Make sure you use up all your topping. Okay, that's it. So we pop these in the fridge to set up the topping. Then I throw them into an airtight container to store. And when I want to eat one, I pull one out usually about 15 minutes before I want to eat it, because it comes up to room temperature and it's really creamy and soft that way. It's delicious. So thank you for joining me here on Keto Upgrade. I hope you enjoy your peanut butter chocolate cheesecakes as much as I do. And I'll see you soon.